Yeah, the war in Ukraine and the bloody battle for a key city in the east. Russian forces have nearly encircled the city of Bakhmut now, but Ukrainians aren't losing hope and are vowing not to withdraw. ABC News' James Longman is in eastern Ukraine, joining me now with more. So, James, just bring us up to date on the latest in Bakhmut, and also, how much longer do you think the Ukrainians can hold out?
Yeah, Kira, it does feel like we're reaching some kind of climax in this city. There were so many rumors about the Ukrainians about to withdraw, about to retreat, but President Zelensky and just about every Ukrainian official has come out to say that's absolutely not happening. And actually, some Western officials think that there's every chance that the Ukrainians might actually launch now a counter-offensive against the Russians. The Russians saying for days that they had encircled the city. Wagner Group, which is fighting there, being very clear that they were about to go in, that they've taken some of the northern suburbs. In fact, there was a UK Defence Intelligence report that suggested that 2 key bridges had been demolished, had blown up. And that perhaps was a sign that the Ukrainians were preparing to withdraw, that the Russians were somehow on the offensive. But I'd ask you to remember Mariupol, another massive city in this war 8 months ago that the Russians finally took. But that was after months and months and months of fighting, and the Ukrainians did not give up. It became a symbol of their sacrifice. And in many ways, that is what Bakhmut has become. What we are seeing, though, is the 2 different modalities of warfare here that are being employed. You've got the Russians on the one hand, for whom it is total war, utter demolition, really, obliterating entire neighborhoods, using not just artillery, but also fighter jets. Nothing is off limits for the Russians. But then you have, on the other hand, Ukrainians who are dug in, forming defensive positions and surgically trying to pick off Russians, often going for leadership positions using drones to draw out enemy troops. So you've got these 2 different modalities, if you like, up against one another. And so far, it looks like a stalemate. Kira?
Really, we were reading about just these staggering numbers of Russian casualties in Bakhmut. Is that what you're seeing? And do you see an advancement here for Zelensky and his men?
Well, look, I mean, it's so difficult to know, isn't it, about casualty numbers. Western officials believe that the Russians may have lost between 20 to 30,000 men. And I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it? And like I said, Wagner Group, that is the mercenary group that Russia pays to fight its wars, they have been heavily involved here. Now, Wagner is an interesting organization. Yevgeny Prigozhin, who runs it, basically said to Vladimir Putin, said to the generals in Moscow, look, you can't get Bakhmut, let me go and try. And he has tried very hard, and actually it hasn't been working out for him. So he's started criticizing Moscow. He's probably the only man alive who can keep criticizing Vladimir Putin in this way, saying that they're not being properly supplied, that, that the Russian troops have been let down. That seems to be changing, but I mean, Bakhmut militarily isn't that significant. I mean, there are reasons why it's useful to the Russian army. They can launch attacks on other bigger cities in the east, but really it's become this kind of politically salient place where, for Russian internal dynamics, it's become important for Wagner to prove itself to Moscow. So they're involved there. Initially, lots of convicts, lots of prisoners fighting, now more seasoned fighters. And for the Ukrainians, it's worthwhile trying to pick as many of them off. Kira?
So when you have the head of this mercenary group saying, hey, I don't have enough ammo to finish this battle, what does that tell you about the state of the Russian army?
We've been saying this for months and months now. The Russian tactic, as it has always been, if you just look back through history, has been just to throw as many men at the problem as possible. And that is what they have been doing. It's very clear to most international observers that the Russian military has never really been that well equipped. They just have strength in numbers, and they think that brute force will get them through. That might be enough to take Bakhmut, but at an enormous cost, a massive, massive cost to them. The Ukrainians are sort of thinking to themselves, well, we can take as many men as possible, make Russia sink as much resource as possible into Bakhmut, and they'll be too exhausted to be able to take these other cities like the ones we're in here, which are much, much more heavily defended. Kira?
All right, James Longman. Appreciate it, James.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.